Alright guys, so we're getting very very close now to the end of season 2 of the original Transformers from the 80s. This episode is called Masquerade, and a title I'm actually using for a series of scripts I'm writing myself. I've been writing Masquerade for a while now. It's like a 10-part. To jump off topic for a little second, it's like a 10-part science fiction horror sort of a thing that, in all honesty, is probably too big a project for me to ever make at my levels. An indie filmmaker that just has to depend on friends and people that are just willing to work for free. It's just one of those subjects. The size of it is flipping huge. This episode of Transformers is Masquerade. That just jumped out at me. I've got a project Masquerade that I'm working on. So at the beginning of this episode, Megatron sends the Stunticons out on a mission to get 3 items that he needs for something that he's working on. Turns out to be a massive cannon laser gun we see at the end of the episode. But what he needs is this huge ruby, these lenses to force the laser through to get the destructive power that he needs, and a generator. So he sends the Stunticons off. You got Motor Master, the leader of them, then the 4 cronies, let's just call them. So Motor Master splits them up, sends 2 of them off to get the lenses, and R2 off to get the generator, and he's going to go get the ruby himself. So they manage to do this successfully, get the stuff Megatron needs. On their way back to the rendezvous site, they run into the Autobots, who have been tracking their movements, and we get a lot of action in this episode with Grapple, Hoist and Inferno. They take on Breakdown and Wind Rider and beat them. Warpath and Trax, one of my favourite characters in the Transformers. I had that toy as a kid, and it was an amazing toy. So Warpath and Trax, they take on Dead End and Dragstrip. They manage to beat them, and of course you know what's going to happen. You've got Motor Master, who transforms into a truck and a trailer. Of course you got Optimus Prime, truck and trailer. So they end up having a head-to-head game of chicken, and they do huge collision. Spike and Bumblebee along with Blaster are watching this going down, and there's a huge explosion. You can't see anything, and when the dust finally settles, they see that Optimus Prime has come out victorious between him and Motor Master. So what they have to do now is work out what the Stunticons were actually doing, trying to get these 3 things, and they come up with the idea after watching a news report. One of the scientists that was working in the lab that had the special lenses that Megatron needed, he said at the beginning he thought, driverless cars, those were Autobots. So this gives Optimus Prime the idea to actually disguise themselves as the Stunticons. So they manage to, it's a cartoon, in the world of a cartoon, everything will make a certain amount of sense to a certain point, but the way they describe it is we'll get a fresh paint job here and disguise ourselves as the Stunticons. Now it was actually better done in Megatron's master plan, but it is what it is for this episode. So Optimus Prime, along with who are they all? Jazz, he is disguised, Sideswipe, Mirage and One Charger, along with Optimus Prime, are all disguised as the Stunticons. So off they go with the generator, the lenses and this Ruby to take the Megatron to work out what he's doing. So they infiltrate the Decepticon camp. Starscream sort of catches on straight away that something isn't just right with the Stunticons here, because they're driving sensibly for a change. The Stunticons are normally just head cases. They're just reckless at everything that they do. But yeah, so he's on edge, thinking something's not right here. Doesn't really work it out until too late, of course. It's a Starscream we're talking about. But back at the Autobot headquarters, the Stunticons were imprisoned behind these energy cells. They managed to escape and transform. They're a combiner team. They managed to merge into a giant robot called Menasor, take on the Autobots and the Autobot base, overcome them, and then they head off back to Megatron to warn him what's going on. So at the end of the episode, the Constructicons have finished this new weapon of Megatron's, and he's getting ready to test it, reveal the sort of power that it has. At this point, the Autobots are still there in vehicle form. They haven't transformed yet, which is another thing that's given Starscream reason to suspect something. So when Menasor actually turns up on site, they're like, what's going on here? Menasor is like, I'm Menasor, these are Autobots. At which point they start the whole thing of trying to work out who's the real Stunticon. So Megatron orders the Autobots disguised as the Stunticons to transform into Menasor. If you're really the Stunticons, you could merge into Menasor, which they do. They transform into Menasor, but Mirage is in the mix there, and between some force fields between the Autobots holding themselves together, and has ability to change what people see, they managed to make a second Menasor. So Menasor is fighting against Menasor at one point here, and the real Menasor manages to get the upper hand on the Autobot Menasor, at which point the Autobots break their disguises altogether. Optimus Prime's like, there's no point in keeping the charade up now, we're caught out here. So the five of them were up against Menasor. Megatron, of course, is there. Starscream and Soundwave are there. So they're fighting against them and trying their best to avoid Megatron and this new laser weapon that he's built. And he's like, it's that strong, it'll start a chain reaction inside anything that it hits and just destroy it with maximum destructive power. So he's firing, trying to take out Optimus Prime and the rest of them. At which point the gun itself, this weapon that he's made, starts to freak out and overheat and whatnot. So that eventually explodes. Soundwave shouts at one point, it's like, this thing's, this isn't good. I would advise you to get away from it. And Megatron's like, advice noted and ignored, and he keeps going. So, eventually this thing does explode in his face, at which point Menasor disappears when he sees the other Autobots coming to help Optimus Prime and the four that are already there. So Menasor's like, there's too many of them. He retreats, and Starscream and Soundwave say to Megatron, look, if you want to stay here and fight on your own, it's up to you. They disappear as well, which forces Megatron to retreat as well at the end of the episode, which usually happens. So it turns out Ironhide had made a few adjustments to the Ruby back at Autobot headquarters before Optimus Prime brought it to Megatron. So the system and the gun or the weapon wasn't going to work Obviously, if Megatron needed these 3 elements, they were very, very important. So a few adjustments to this ruby and its size and whatever was enough to destroy everything at the end of the episode, and the Autobots to win. So yeah, that was it for this episode. Short and sweet, and not so heavy in story, very heavy on action, and tasty little episode. Now we've only got one episode left before the end of the best run of the Transformers in my mind. Very little after season 1 and 2 of Transformers really jumped out to me as far as the TV shows went, other than Transformers Prime. I have to say was excellent series. There's quite a few things after this that I haven't seen fully, in all fairness. Hold my hands up, not 100% versed on the Transformers, other than the series that I watched as a kid. So this was the highlight. After this, everything was not a downhill struggle, but it wasn't great compared to those first 2 seasons. Now, one episode, as I say, if memory serves, is called B-O-T, and if memory also serves, apparently it's an atrocious episode. But we are completists in this channel, so we will be doing it. So until we get round to that, I hope you're enjoying the content that's coming out at the minute. We're jumping between a lot of different stuff these days in the channel. I do know that it's very much all over the place, but it is what it is. And if you're into your pop culture, hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying making the content. So until the next episode, whatever you're doing, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then.